I would define healing as the intentional work we do to remember that we are whole, complete, and lacking nothing.
Healing is calling the raw materials into your life that you need in order to move past a trauma or move past a blockage for yourself, an energetic blockage.
I believe that we come into the world without blemish, even though religion would often tell us that we came into the world sinful. I believe that the blemishes come when we encounter trauma, when we encounter the hurts and wounds in our lives that deal with people that we lost, that deal with people that abandon us, that are centered around structural racism and what we experience in these institutions, that are centered around poverty. Those external things attempt to make us believe that we are incomplete.
I strongly feel that movements for social justice, nonprofit organizations, community-based organizations need to include healing justice and mental health into their work. I think we have seen the consequences of what happens when that is not considered in our work, when we don't have succinct structures and policies in place to support people, or also to even hold boundaries with people, right? I believe that is necessary because when we're in this state of distress, which we are in as Black people in this country, and then we're in these heightened states of distress because of someone's been killed in our community, or someone has been assaulted in our community, that in those moments, if we don't have a plan, an understanding of how trauma works and how we can intervene and support folks and hold people accountable, or help us all be held accountable, then we lose. We lose time, we lose energy, we lose our movement. And we need to see that, like, whatever gets in the way of the work is actually the work.
It is really important that we do pay attention to the intersections of social justice and mental health. Some of the, not only are there stigmas and misconceptions that keep people from getting the help that they need, but there's also just huge financial disparities, economic disparities that make it so that people who even need help can't have it, don't have access to it, or even more specifically, don't have access to mental health professionals that look like them or that are conscious of their lived experiences or respectful of their lived experiences. So making sure that these services remain attainable for all, and that they are, openly accessible. You don't have to go, on scavenger hunts to be able to get connected to a therapist is what it feels like sometimes. Particularly someone who's going to be respectful of your life and your culture and your background and, microaggressions and, that you don't have to explain the very basic fundamental things about your humanity to before you can even get to the healing.
And I know when it comes to social justice activism, I've found that in just my friendships with my friends who are activists, that they have been called into the work because of particular trauma that they have experienced, but are not doing the work on that trauma. And so what it means is, as social activists, to be mindful that activism starts with self first, and then it is an outpouring of that. So that healing, recognizing that we're whole, complete, and lacking nothing, feeds into how we strategize when it comes to activism work. And so I think that we can be more effective if we become clear that it starts here first, and then the outpouring happens when we do the work out in the world.
In the big conversation of Black mental health and healing, I think the holes that are missing are the fact that it's everybody. So I think sometimes people want to exclude them or make it so one of the things that I hate hearing is when it comes to anything that we're trying to convince people of is that you have somebody in your family who's dealing with this. Yeah, but the real thing is everybody's dealing with this. Listen, if you show me a Black person who's not dealing with anxiety, and I'll show you a Black person who has turned off their television since they were 5. Show me a Black person who does not battle with depression. I'll show you a Black person who has totally stayed numb to interpersonal and political ways that they've been affected by it.
Healing justice today is so easily becoming commodified because every single movement that we are encountering is growing in a very mediated culture. Everything is dominated by media and pop culture and social media. So I am grateful that healing justice is on the rise and that people have language to point towards various signifiers as healing justice. But what I do want to occur is for people to take seriously the importance of fortifying a ongoing practice of working towards wellness, and that like wellness is not something that I wake up today and say I'm well, but like I wake up today and say I'm working towards wellness, because it doesn't end. Like we have to care for our mental, spiritual, and emotional selves with intentional care, deliberately.
When it comes to the struggle for human rights, the struggle for justice, it is a never-ending battle. And we have to recognize that in the context of that never-ending battle, there are many scars that we collect on ourselves and our hearts. And if we are not taking the time to attend to those scars and those wounds, they get larger. They begin to like impact our vision and how we can even do the work. And so in this moment, it is so necessary for us to take our time to commit to our healing, to our well-being, even as we are vigorously fighting against the oppression and against the forces that try to like dehumanize us. But it has to happen simultaneously.
We can't encounter or reach any liberation without caring for ourselves, caring for each other, and caring for our bodies. That we can't physically show up in any kind of capacity to challenge or counter anything that stops us away from, anything that blocks us away from the freedom that we deserve, that is birthright, without caring for our bodies.